Rallying is an exciting sport, but there can be risks. This film is intended to try to help minimize those risks. Before getting down to the detail of running a rally, it's perhaps worth an organising team or club determining their objectives in running the event and whether they have the resources for what they're planning. With the inherent risks in the sport and increasing litigation, it may be wise for organisers in some countries to consider their legal status and perhaps form a company specifically for the event. The next task is to build an organising team. The FIA's Rally Safety Guidelines, which can be downloaded from FIA.com, are helpful over this. And in addition, local advice may be available from your national motorsport authority. Stewards will be needed. They act as impartial observers to see that the event is run according to the regulations. They also act as a judicial body if there's an appeal against a decision by the clerk of the course. Stewards should not have any other official job on an event. Below the stewards, there are many jobs to be done. The size of the team that does them will obviously depend on the size of the rally. This film concentrates on major stage events, but many of the points apply to smaller events too. Although on those, some of the jobs may not be necessary or may be combined. Exact job titles may vary from country to country, but broad responsibilities will be similar, and it's important that the key functions are carried out, whatever the titles. Incidentally, for simplicity, he has been used throughout this film, but this could equally be she, because women play a key role on many rallies. One person should head the organising team. The clerk of the course, who is in effect the manager of the rally, with overall responsibility for its safe running, for compliance with the relevant regulations, and for keeping the event on track. His duties are outlined in the FIA International Sporting Code. If the need arises, he'll be responsible for applying the safety plan as practically as possible. It will be his job to inform the stewards of all urgent matters and, in cooperation with the Chief Safety Officer, for making sure that all relevant information regarding emergency matters goes public only through the media office. It will make sense for him to have an assistant, and this role can be a useful training ground for future clerks. The clerk of the course must have a comprehensive knowledge of the route, the territory of the rally, the location of emergency teams, and the various chief marshals. Next, the secretary of the meeting, responsible for the general event paperwork and online activity, who in effect manages the office for the clerk of the course. A key role for the secretary is the signing on of competitors, and he or she, of course, may also be responsible for the financial side of the event, although larger events may even have a finance director. You may think finance isn't a safety issue. It could become so if poor financial management led to economies being made. Major events may well have a marketing director. The title may vary. They are in charge of income, sponsorship, and looking after event supporters. In other words, delivering value for money, which can be vital for the future of an event. The Chief Marshal plays a key role, responsible for arranging enough marshals for the rally and for making sure everyone knows what to do and where to go. On major events, this function may involve the clerk of the course, who will have marshal commanders for an area, each stage or group of stages. A chief timekeeper should be on the organising team to arrange the supply and distribution of timing equipment and to ensure that people know how to use it. As timing systems become more automated and GPS-based, training sessions are important. There should always be a backup timing system available. The chief timekeeper will also be in charge of the results team. A chief scrutineer will be needed and should be responsible for booking other scrutineers depending on the number of entries. Safety is a key function of the scrutineering process. Also important is a competitor relations officer, who acts as a bridge between the clerk of the course and competitors. The job is often done by an ex-co-driver who knows the rules and can advise competitors, although not instruct them. Moving on, the Chief Safety Officer has a vital role in supporting the clerk of the course to ensure the event is run safely. His job is to consider the risks to competitors, officials, marshals and spectators. These risks need to be thought about before deciding what contingency measures to put in the safety plan. Attention to safety should start well before an event. It's been known for people to be injured when setting up special stages, and the risks may not just be on the stages. There can be hazards in service areas, and the safety plan needs to recognize this. The Chief Safety Officer is responsible for booking the relevant number of safety, rescue and recovery vehicles, and for producing the all-important event safety plan and making sure that it's followed. The safety plan is covered in more detail later in the film. On the day of the rally, the safety officer or a deputy should check either personally or by radio the correct position of all safety vehicles and staff. With the clerk of the course and the secretary of the rally, he appoints the start and stop safety officers for each stage. The Chief Medical Officer is responsible for recruiting doctors and paramedic teams to support the event. He'll also be responsible for medical input during preparation of the safety plan, or for a separate medical safety plan. He should visit hospitals and medical centres to ask medical staff to be on alert during the rally. This should be confirmed in writing not less than 16 days before the event. On the rally itself, he should ensure that all medical staff have met with their stage commanders and have been positioned at the pre-arranged locations. A radio controller needs to be on the organising team. Communication is the key to all successful safety operations, and a reliable radio system is vital. Organisers should ensure that radio frequencies are booked and paid for in advance with the relevant licensing authorities, if appropriate. The radio controller will usually be one of the deputy clerks of the course, who sits alongside the clerk and fields calls from stage commanders or other deputies as part of an organised plan. The ideal control of any incident is by using a helicopter, so that the clerk can see exactly what's going on. But few events can afford that and must rely on clear information via radio links. As the clerk of the course may sometimes be out of communication range on an event, the radio controller may have to make some important decisions, so needs to be someone who can work under pressure and of course has the necessary authority to make those decisions. A large event may need more than one radio frequency and therefore more than one radio controller. The safety and medical frequency must not be swamped by administration calls that should be dealt with on a separate network. Anyone using a radio on an event should be aware of the correct procedure and should always remember that others could be listening via scanners or other devices. Stage commanders are responsible for making sure stages are fully ready by the appointed time and for dealing first-hand with any safety and operational details, such as making sure that stage-based officials and marshals are signed on. Stages are usually broken into sections, with a senior marshal for each section in radio contact with the stage commander. Special stage safety officers should be fully aware of the safety plan and be in contact with the special stage commander, the chief safety officer and safety marshals. They should check such things as emergency roads to ensure that an ambulance will not be blocked by spectators' cars if there's an accident. Depending on the size of the rally, organisers may well get many media requests for information. It's important that only one person, the media officer, who on many events will report to the marketing director, handles this side of things. If you have an incident on a rally, all media inquiries should be directed to this person. Other personnel should be briefed about not voicing opinions on, say, accidents to the media. To reinforce this point, the media officer should publish an incident procedure, clearly setting everything out. The rapid growth in social media offers opportunities to rally organisers, but it also presents challenges. Organisers and marshals need to remember that any exciting incident near spectators will almost certainly go onto social media sites. In fact, it's been known for video footage of an accident to be posted on a social media site before the arrival of the emergency services. Any serious incident will be a magnet to spectators, and the conduct of an extraction and/or medical treatment of casualties will often be filmed, unless there are enough marshals to cordon off the scene. The law over filming of incidents is not the same in all countries, but spectators and media anywhere are likely to want to take photographs. Acting within the law, organisers should seek to establish a safe working area and ensure that the privacy of those involved is protected. The arrival of senior officials and medical staff may help here. It will be the responsibility of the police to gather evidence if there's been a serious accident. The media officer may well be the person in charge of public relations for the rally. Good PR is essential to minimize the disruption caused by an event. Remember, not everyone loves our sport. Whoever handles PR will need support from people with diplomatic skills, who should be briefed on precisely what approach to take and what to say, and just as important, what not to say, when contacting the public. Finally, a helicopter coordinator will be needed on major events to cover liaison over the use of airspace and so on. If helicopters are likely to be used, the helicopter section of the FIA's rally safety guidelines should be studied, along with local air traffic control laws. Keep in mind, of course, that helicopters may not be able to fly in poor conditions. That's a very long list of people, and it must again be stressed that not all events will need all those posts filled, and titles may differ. But whatever the team structure, safety should remain the priority. Good communications within an organising team are important for a safe event. It's essential, for example, to have everyone in agreement on a realistic timetable, which in particular highlights issues which need to be dealt with well in advance and which could, if missed, cause cancellation. There needs to be clear understanding of job descriptions to avoid duplicated effort, or worse, things being missed. You'll also need good communications with your National Motorsport Authority, local authorities, the police, sponsors, and, for some events, with local car clubs who may be able to help. Event clothing for those involved may help build a team spirit and perhaps create revenue from the sale of such material, or at least exposure for your sponsors. While during an event itself, personnel should wear identifying tabards. The colours recommended by the FIA for these are Safety Marshals, orange. Safety Officer, orange with white stripe and text. Post Chief, blue with white stripe and text. Media, green. Stage Commander, red with text. Competitor Relations Officer, red jacket or red tabard. Medical, white. Radio, yellow with blue mark. Scrutineer, black. All official photographers should wear numbered tabards. Not all these will be needed on smaller events. Before the full organising team is in place, route planning will have been completed by the clerk of the course. As well as the all-important location of controls and the special stages, many other things have to be considered. For example, start and finish towns, perhaps dependent on what financial support is being offered by places. Adequate hotel accommodation in the area. HQ location with enough rooms and adequate parking. Media area. An adequate area for scrutineering. For major events, a garage lift will be needed. It will be time-consuming if there's only one. Service areas. These should be arranged at suitable places to cope with the number of entries expected. Time controls should be placed at the entry and exit to such areas so that time spent on service can be measured and controlled. Service park lighting if running into darkness. Rally organisers also need to consider alternative routes, movement of spectators between stages, environmental requirements, fuel availability, and areas where there are radio dead spots or mobile coverage doesn't exist if using GPRS-based tracking. There are so many systems that it can get complicated, but any major event should have a tracking system in place. GPRS systems based on mobiles are not expensive to run, but will depend on the coverage. Extra transmitter systems can be hired, but whatever the system, manual backup tracking by marshals remains necessary. Roadbook should give information on GPS locations of all junctions, vehicles at radio points, and HQ emergency telephone numbers. With the route planned, the safety plan should be prepared. As mentioned earlier, under the duties of the Chief Safety Officer, this is the most important document for a safe event. The plan should include names of the people in charge of functions, plus the names and phone numbers of the various safety services, police, hospitals, emergency medical services, firefighting, and breakdown services. The plan should include the full itinerary and a safety plan for each stage. This will involve cooperation with each stage commander to prepare a plan for each stage, showing the meeting points and locations of ambulance, fire and rescue teams, radio point marshals and safety marshals. The plan should also decide on no-go areas for spectators and evacuation points. WRC regulations specify deadlines for submitting the safety plan and other documentation to the FIA. The safety plan should specifically address issues over the safety of the public, the safety of competing crews, and the safety of officials on the event. The plan should also include details of which rescue services are stationed where, not forgetting scrutineering and service areas. Instructions for the intervention in the case of an incident needing someone transferred by ambulance or helicopter, evacuation routes, rendezvous points and so on, and hospitals which should have been contacted and which would be used in an emergency should be listed. Before the rally, the safety officer should ensure that everyone who needs it has a copy of the safety plan in time to read it and understand it, that people are properly trained, and that the responsibilities assigned to them are clear. One of the greatest challenges in rallying, and hence of vital importance in drawing up a safety plan, is to ensure the safety of spectators. At least half of special stage cancellations are due to spectator emergencies, falling over, heart attacks, etc. And these absorb rally medical services. Many of the watching public don't clearly understand the potential danger and don't fully appreciate the speed of the cars. As a result, they may place themselves in dangerous positions simply through lack of understanding. When positioning spectators or marshalling points, organisers should remember that cars can run wide on corners, they can cut corners, throw up stones, overshoot junctions, run off the road after jumps or at an S-bend or at a medium fast bend after a very fast section. Remember too that a car that's out of control can travel a very